On today's show, Merry Christmas to everybody. The Dallas Mavericks fall to the Utah Jazz, and no moral victories in this house, Isaac.
Coming up next, who says no for a Kawhi AD swap?
Ooh, we'll get into that and more on today's Locked On Mavs.
Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks podcast.
The Dallas Mavericks are NBA champions. Bang! Bang! It's good! And the Mavericks have won the game!
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
And welcome. You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and NBA channel manager for the Locked On Podcast Network. I am here in Florida, still on the Christmas vacation, I guess, with my family, and it is 1:50 a.m. Local time where I am right now, and everyone is sleeping in my house. So if I sound like I'm trying to seduce you, this is because it's because everyone is sleeping in the house that I'm in right now. But joining me, as always, my co-host, contributor, writer at Mavs.com, the Christmas crooner, the one more thinking. What you got for me, Isaac Harris?
Well, I'm wearing this Locked On T-shirt I got in the mail.
Ooh,
with 10 million on the back of it. It literally says 10 million. And it's a testament to 10 million downloads for the whole network. Or
from us?
Last week.
No, okay, not.
Honestly, though, I know we joked about this. I think we're close to 10 million, though, for
all time
since we've taken over the pod. Yeah, I think we're close.
I'll have to look that up sometime. We've also switched platforms a couple times, added YouTube and all that kind of stuff. So we have to add that all up. But
real quick, non-game. We'll get into the Jazz game. We're obviously recording this on Christmas, so man, there's so many different angles I want to ask you about gifts in Florida and everything. But I joked about at the top. AD, Kawhi. Who says no in the swap?
Man. I mean,
it's the punt the season. If you let's
just the Lakers just punt the season. Go for it. You might as well. The season is dead anyway.
Out for the whole year, guaranteed.
The Lakers say, can we throw in Westbrook? We don't need anything else back. Just dead salary, whatever.
But it's like Lakers punting on the season, but they get the better player in Kawhi and say, hey, we'll run this back next year with Kawhi and LeBron, 2 top 6 players in the league. And it's the Clippers saying, hey, let's just go all in. We'll, Paul George, AD, West.
I think after the way the Clippers saw Kawhi play last, I don't know if the Clippers do that, even though he's out.
I don't think they do either. That's who says no.
Both anyway, top 75 players of all time, Isaac.
Anthony Davis is top
75. All right, let's get into this game. So the Dallas Mavericks fall to the Utah Jazz 120-116. 4-point loss. Let me just I know everyone's running back there's no moral victories. No moral victories. Come on. Give me a break for just a minute. The Mavericks in this game.
I love how you're yelling but not yelling.
I know. That's why I warned people. I said everyone is sleeping.
Break, guys. Everyone is saying right now.
Everyone is sleeping in this house.
Wake them up.
Mavericks played 4 rotation players, plus Frank Ntilikina. He's in and out of the rotation, plus Moses Brown, plus 5 hardship players in this game against the Jazz. That literally
who else? Who else, baby? Who else played on Christmas? Freaking Charlie Brown. Let's go.
Good grief. The Jazz literally had none of their important players on injury or COVID list, at all, full strength Utah Jazz at home. And the Mavs come in there and they fight, and they actually played really hard against them. And they took them to the fourth quarter, and they had, you think he waved at the end of the crowd again? You think Trent Forrest did that? And the Mavericks took them to the end. I know moral victories are not oh, we can't settle for this, but come on, you have to, as a Mavs fan, you have to be proud about what the Mavericks did in this game tonight, right? I think that's my takeaway is be proud of what the Mavs did, be proud of what Jalen Brunson did, be proud of what some of these guys, what KP did in the third quarter. Some of these guys fought really hard. What Frank Ntilikina honestly did, what they fought and they defended, and the decisions Jason Kidd made, and some of the hardship players came in and did. This Mavs team did something that, I expected this game to be a 30-point loss. I thought for sure the Jazz were just going to come in, hit a bunch of threes, and just blitz them out of the building. And that didn't happen.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't think you can say, this. I don't think you can enter the season and be like, "Hey, Luka's supporting cast sucks," and then when Luka's not playing, you're mad that they lose. Like,
Yeah.
no, I'm just saying that's what I'm saying. I'm agreeing with you in the sense of like going into non-Luka games. Especially against one of the best teams in the league. I'm expecting not to be like I even tweeted after the game. I'm like, hey, with all the hardship guys and with Luka not playing, all of these games have been way more entertaining than I ever imagined. And it's more of you can have a bigger conversation of, oh, I can be frustrated that they don't have a roster in place around Luka that can like that you can be confident going into games, like maybe being in the game, winning and stuff. But they've been in all of these games and they fought so dang hard that it's like, yeah, man, I wish they would have won, but I'm not like losing sleep over it tonight. I'm just not. I'm not. We joked about it a few games ago of, can we just collectively agree not to get mad on these like non-Luka games? And I mean, that's just
I don't think everyone agreed with you. I don't think everyone agreed with you on that one.
I mean, it's the internet. Like, it's just part of it. Like, I mean, people are gonna get mad.
Welcome to the internet. Take a look around.
You want to get mad? You want to get mad?
Everything,
let's get mad together.
all of the time. So, all right. So the Dallas Mavericks, they fall in this game, but they lost by 4 in this game to the Utah Jazz, who were at full strength, and the Mavs shot 10 of 30 from 3. And they shot worse than that at the beginning of the game. They hit a couple late. But it's not like they came in there and bombed a bunch of threes and shot an incredible percentage. They fought and they worked and they played well defensively. And the reason why they took this game was because of some of the individual playmaking they had from Brunson, a little bit from Kristaps Porzingis. Frank Ntilikina was out there just working his butt off. Brandon Knight had a good bounce back game from the stinker that he put up in the last game. But let's focus on Jalen Brunson at first, because there was a little back and forth on ESPN on the broadcast. If ESPN was ever in sync with their audio, and
I muted that thing halfway through the first quarter.
They finally figured it out. Literally, if you're watching on ESPN, you would hear the shot go in, like the rim mic, and then you would see the shot go in. And so it was just like every single shot was ruined for you because if you were watching that ESPN.
Or just the crowd reaction of made shot by the Jazz, the crowd go nuts while the ball's like leaving the guy's hand.
But in this game, they did a mic'd up segment where you heard Jalen Brunson mic'd up and you heard him talking and you heard him getting back on defense and things like that. But there was a segment where you heard Jalen Brunson and Jason Kidd talk back and forth with each other. And Jalen Brunson and Kidd were talking about a play or talking about a read that Brunson was supposed to make. And Brunson said, "So what what should I do?" And Kidd just kind of looked at him and was like, you know what you're supposed to do. And Brunson was like, yeah, I just wanted your opinion on it. And I thought that was really cool. I thought it was cool to hear that little back and forth. Now, I don't know if we're ever going to know. They asked him about it afterwards. Cato and Callie Kaplan both asked Kidd and Brunson about that. And I'm not sure we're going to get a full explanation of everything that went into that in the full context, but it was cool to hear Kidd empowering a player like that, right? We've been hearing about, well, Jason Kidd's supposed to empower these players. He's supposed to know how to coach, Jalen Brunson. Richard Jefferson, who played with Jason Kidd for a long time in New Jersey, said there is not a better person to coach Jalen Brunson than Jason Kidd. And I've wondered, like, why? Why is that the case? Well, he empowers players. And with that little clip, I thought was a little insight into how he gets that done and how it helps Jalen Brunson.
And that he wanted to ask Kidd that. Like, yeah. I mean, do we want to go out on a limb and just take a guess on how many players went out of their way to ask Rick a question? I mean, we don't know.
I wasn't gonna make this a comparison thing.
No, but I'm just saying, like, we've talked about the different. I mean, this is one of the few things I've written on at the beginning of this year. The change from Rick Carlisle to Jason Kidd and this whole players coach dynamic thing. I talked to an assistant coach the other day about how important about players and being a players coach in today's game, just compared to like 10 years ago, and how more important it is now. And the fact that Jalen in the game is like, hey, I wanted his opinion. Like, I want your opinion on that. That just shows you how much these players respect him, how much they're listening to him, and they're like wanting to be led by him. So I thought that was a telling moment.
And empowering these players, right? He's put Jalen Brunson out there. He's like, you make the read. You know what to do. You know how to get to where you want to get to. You know what you're supposed to be doing. And he empowered him a lot. He empowered him to 25 shots in this game. And he's playing like 40 minutes a night in some of these games. And the Mavs don't have anybody to suit up. And so he is empowering Brunson, and he's going through some of it, and he's taken bad shots, and he's made bad decisions, but he's also made some incredible plays and some incredible decisions. And let's get into how the Mavericks actually pulled out this game, how they actually fought in this game, what we thought was good, pulled out the game in the sense that they didn't get destroyed. Isaac gave me a weird look when I said that. How the Mavericks fought in this game and how they got close to it and how they ended up coming real close. And the one stretch in this game where I thought the Mavericks lost. The one stretch, we'll talk about that. An interesting decision from Jason Kidd. We'll talk about that coming up. All right, Isaac, let's get into the rest of this game. The Dallas Mavericks on Christmas Day, 120 to 116 against the Utah Jazz. We've been talking about Brunson and Kidd and their relationship. Found some really cool stuff during the game, during the mic'd up segment. But Jalen Brunson in this game, 27 points, and just had some incredible shots that he hit over Rudy Gobert, not being scared, just going into it, hitting a couple of big threes, 6 assists for him in this game, making some plays. He was +4 in this game, in a game that the Mavericks lost, which is pretty telling. The reason why the Mavericks lost this game, honestly, and there's a bunch of different stretches. There's one specific one I'll get into in a little bit, but the Mavs bench was brutal, like just absolutely brutally terrible. Just literally look at the box score. This box score literally tells you the story of this game. Brandon Knight, he played 20 minutes. He was a -12 off the bench. George King played 9 minutes. He was a -17. Charlie Brown Jr. -7. Moses Brown -8. Theo Pinson -9. Like all these guys, Marquise Chris -6. The entire starting lineup was a positive in the plus-minus, right? Like the Mavericks were winning those minutes when the actual Mavericks were playing. And then when the hardship Mavericks came in, the Mavericks are at this threshold basically where they just have too many of these guys where there's just no collective tissue when 3 or 4 more of those guys are on the court at the same time.
Have you ever had a tweet written out and you were ready for it, but you could never use it because of you needed something to happen to use it?
Yeah, they're called texts that I send to you every single day.
Okay, well, I'm not talking about text that I'm not bold enough to tweet. I had one ready for George King to hit a 3 that was just gonna say "We 3 King," and I was so proud of it. I was so ready for it, and I never got to use it because he missed both of his threes in this game. Also had just a testament to this roster. I also had a buddy, and this is one of the biggest nationally televised days of the year for the NBA. Buddy back home never watches Mavs. Text me and said, "Hey man, watching your Mavs tonight." Oh man,
you're not watching my Mavs.
Oh buddy, let me fill you in real quick. I was like, "Hey man, we got 10 players out," and he was like, "What? How do you even fill in the team right now?" So, but that's why you look at this roster, you look at this bench, and you look at a bench across the court there, and you look at a guy like Jordan Clarkson, and how much did Jordan Clarkson stick out in a game like tonight? Like dang it, man! Like what this Mavericks team, and we were just talking about before hit record, if Jalen Brunson has to be the secondary creator because of how the team's constructed. But it's if the Mavs could have a guy like that how many times did he get the ball and it's just like, hey, ISO it out. Let me go get a bucket. I could get to the rim. I could create something. Those type of flamethrower type scores are so valuable on some of these teams, especially on a team that lacks some creation outside of the main guy. And this bench unit, man.
The Mavs bench unit was just awful. And that's where you lose games, right? If you don't have your 11 players are on the injury report. Right. That's
they just got signed. That's the thing. It's they just got signed over the past week. And I love Theo Pinson. I want him to stay on this team. I think he did a decent amount of things well tonight. But Brandon Knight was playing late in this game. And I think there was they were running, Brunson kind of off ball a little bit in the second half, some there in that fourth quarter. They
were trying to do the Brunson Luka thing where they run 2 ball handlers at the same time. And they're like, all right, let's do another ball handler. Where's Trey Burke? Oh, he's out. Well, where's Tim Hardaway? He's out. Where's Carlik Jones? He's not.
But Carlik Jones is available. I'm assuming there are probably some people out there be like, why isn't Carlik playing over Brandon Knight? And I would assume Jason Kidd is going with a vet presence out there. It's hey, somebody knows him. Brandon Knight's hey,
that he probably played with.
I at least know that he's going to make the right pass. He's going to, make the right decision and stuff. He at least hit a couple threes tonight. Brandon Knight did. But
I thought Brandon Knight looked a lot better in this game than he did in the first couple.
You wrote him off the other day.
I completely wrote him off. I admitted that I was doing it way too early. I was like, hey, 10 minutes in, I'm out. But you mentioned Jordan Clarkson and when he's out there and there are 4 players that the Mavs signed 2 days ago, of course he's gonna blow them up, right? And he only had 12 points, but he was plus 22. Joe Ingles was plus 24. Like those guys coming off the bench just had a huge impact on the game. And the starting lineup guys, save for Gobert and Conley, were all negative 18 and negative 21, right? That's the area where the Mavericks lost this game, when they just had no collective tissue. They're making incredibly insane mistakes because somebody tweeted at me during the game and said, why are the Mavericks making such bad passes? Like because the Mavericks don't turn it over ever, right? The Mavericks are one of the lowest turnover rates in the NBA. Why are the Mavericks turning it over so much? None of these guys have ever played together, right? Like none of these guys have ever played. You know, George King, Charlie Brown, Brandon Knight, Theo Pinson, Marquise Chris have been on this team for like less than a week, right? That's what we're talking about right now.
They still struggle in transition. You know, that's been
for sure
a thing. You know, we've talked about before.
Although Sterling Brown had an incredible pass in the first quarter that kind of shut me up from my rant yesterday, but then the rest of the game, I thought the Mavs did not.
You ranted about his passing. You ranted about his shooting.
I'm ready. I'll rant about more things for Sterling Brown if he's going to hit 3 of 3 from 3.
I will say I love Sterling Brown. He did have one possession tonight there in the second half.
That was his one turnover. He only had one turnover, and that was his one where he just literally dribbled the clock out and attempted a pick and roll like 8 different times in the same possession. It was the worst, maybe the worst possession of all the Mavs all season.
Didn't get a shot, didn't get to the rim. All right, reset. All right, let's reset again. Let's reset it again. Let me go. And then it was gone. So
here's the stretch that I'm talking about where I think the Mavericks lost this game. So the Mavericks were back and forth. The Mavericks would kind of take a lead, and then it basically went back and forth. The Mavericks had a huge lead in the first quarter. They got up to a 16-point lead, and then the Jazz took it in the second quarter. The Mavs took it back in the third quarter, and then they lost it in the fourth quarter. Then, all of a sudden, the Mavericks went on this run. They went on this crazy run where they almost took the lead back, and it's in the fourth quarter. Mavericks are kind of going back and forth. The Jazz build up a little bit of a lead, and then all of a sudden, 5 minutes and 48 seconds left, Porzingis gets taken out. The Mavericks are down by 9 at this point. And Porzingis gets taken out. Brunson hits a 3. You come back. Brunson hits another 3. Brunson drives and it hits a floater over Gobert because the Mavericks are real spaced out at this point.
Love that.
Because they didn't have any bigs in there. They didn't have Powell. They didn't have Marquise Chris. They went real small at that point. And Porzingis was out. And the Mavericks went on an 11-3 run. And then all of a sudden Porzingis comes back in. The Mavericks are only down by 3 at that point. And then just a couple of brutal possessions over and over again, forcing stuff to Porzingis. Porzingis forcing some mid-rangers. Porzingis forcing stuff that doesn't need to happen. And the Mavericks end up losing this game. And they lose at that point. But I thought there was a chance right there. And I was really interested to see if Kidd would have just left Porzingis out, because the Mavericks were playing really well at that point. Like how long do you ride this? Is it sustainable enough for us to play without Porzingis for us to maybe pull this game out, or at least, try it?
Well, I thought KP was, obviously he was, game time decision or questionable going up into this game.
Yes, with a toe injury.
Yeah, with his toe stuff. I think he talked about it a little bit after the game that, it's probably going to be there just for a little bit. But so I thought in that fourth that maybe it was bothering him some because he was out for that stretch of the fourth, and then they bring him in. And this has happened before. They bring him in with 2.5, 3 minutes to go, 3.5 minutes to go in the fourth. I mean, obviously the coaching staff has worked with him on like what's comfortable with him, what's the best for him. It just, from an outsider's perspective of that, it seems like a weird time to bring somebody in and just say, hey, play the last 3 minutes of a game and be in rhythm, be like all that. So
it's like you have to play the final 5 minutes or you can't, right? Like if they were trying to take him out for rest and they rested him from minute 6 to minute 3, like that's a really critical portion of the game to rest somebody, especially when the Mavericks are going on a run right there. And even before they took Porzingis out, I wrote down the wheels are starting to come off. So many careless mistakes and bad shots and stuff. Like it felt like the Jazz were finally taking over, and it felt like that in this game 3 or 4 times where it's like, okay, finally the Jazz are going to take over. They're going to take advantage of these mistakes, and they're just going to blitz the Mavs and go out to a 20-point lead. They never did that in this game at all. They never got their biggest lead was 10 in this game. They never really finished that run or did anything like that. Brunson righted the ship in that moment. Then they took Porzingis out, and then he almost got them the lead back. And it was a 2-point game at one point. And man, it was like, oh man, are they actually going to do this? Are they going to pull this off? And it ended up not being the case there. But Porzingis did mention his toe injury after the game. And yeah, I think that was really bothering him. It's also his first game back in a little bit, so he's very concerned about his rhythm as a shooter and as a player, and so his rhythm wasn't necessarily there. But I was curious to see what would have happened if Porzingis didn't come back in this one.
And he's still not shooting, well from three. And he
No.
finished the game 27 points, 9 boards, 8 of 18 from the field. I like some of his shots, around the basket, and he had some tough shots, some fadeaways in the post and stuff. Him and Royce O'Neal looked like they exchanged a little back and forth there in the fourth. And
do we have to get to it now?
What, the Jazz? They won the title.
Tony Brothers and the refs in this game were just all over the place at times. I think there's a lot of I think there's a lot of fouls that they call the Jazz fans were furious about that I was like, I think those are maybe fouls. But there's just a lot of weird stuff called back and forth in this game. It upset the rhythm. I mean, both teams, how many free throws these teams shoot?
The Mavs had 31 personal fouls, so
they were 30 of 35 from the free throw line. The Mavs had 31 fouls. The Jazz had 24 fouls, and they were 28 of 37 from the free throw line. So what is that? 70
a million.
72 free throws taken in this game. The game took forever. It felt like it was the longest game the Mavs have played all year.
Yes.
But how can that be an excuse for the Jazz at all? The Mavericks hitting those free throws kept them in the game, but they only made 2 more than the Jazz did in this one. It was weird, and it did seem to affect the rhythm of the game. It affected the Jazz mentally, I thought, a lot. They were just complaining and screaming all the time about fouls, and it was refreshing for the Mavericks to not be that team.
Yeah, and shout out to Mitchell, launching the ball up at half court after the game. And, I love Donovan Mitchell, so I joke about this, but I mean, they won that title, so congrats.
The Christmas Day title. You should do it like the NFL where they on Thanksgiving where they give them like a ham or something.
There are 2 things I want to point out too. I thought the field goal attempts, when you just straight up look at the box score after the game, I'm like, okay, it felt like Jalen shot the ball a ton this game. But going into the game like this without Luka and without a bunch of these guys, without Tim, you know what I would want? Kind of exactly what it looks like.
Right.
Give me 20, 25 shots for Jalen Brunson. Give me around 20, 25 shots for KP. KP finished with 18, but it's like it was very, top 2 heavy with that. Frank had 12 after that, but I'm like, I'm kind of here for that. Like I would much rather Jalen Brunson shoot the ball 25 times than, I don't know, Brandon Knight shooting at 12
at all.
Yeah. But like I kind of like that. And shout out to Frank, man. There was so many times this game that I was like really impressed with him. And Mitchell, it felt like he was kind of dealing with his own injury stuff. And
yeah, he was.
I mean, he obviously had 33 in this game, but I liked what Frank gave. I mean, for Frank to be a +7 in this game and play 34 minutes and you lost, like that's kind of impressive for him. And I just liked a lot of things.
17 points. He hit 2 threes. Yeah. He hit all 5 of his free throws, 4 boards, an assist, 2 steals, and how many fouls? He had 3 fouls. He was guarding Donovan Mitchell a lot in this game, and he held Mitchell had like 33, but a lot of those he had a lot of those on switches and things like that. It wasn't all on, I don't think it was all on Frank, but yeah, incredible job from him. He continues to earn playing time, hopefully for Jason Kidd, and I think I hope he's earned a spot because he's proven it.
I thought Marquise Chris could be taking over the title from Dwight Powell of I get screwed, or actually from Maxey from I get screwed by like ticky-tack fouls called on me, because I thought he had a couple tonight. I mean, he had 4 in this. I mean, no, he had 5 fouls on him in this game, and I thought a couple of them were just dumb. Like they shouldn't have been called.
He was like it was the makeup call. Like the refs were like, we screwed the Jazz. Now we have to do a makeup call, and it was they were all on Marquise Chris. But I guess it was a superstar Gobert call some of the time. But I do want to give Porzingis credit though, because I kind of felt like I trashed him talking about the fourth quarter when he came back in and the Mavs lost the game. But Porzingis' third quarter I thought was great. It's what you want to see from Porzingis, where he takes over a little bit, hits a couple of jumpers, hits a couple of mid-range shots. He had 2 plays in a row around the 5-minute mark, where he had 2 post-ups in a row and he finished. He had one, I think it was on Royce O'Neal, and another one where he was up around 15 to 18 feet from the basket And it's something that I've wanted NBA players to do for a long time. I'm like, okay, if you're posting up somebody really far away from the basket and you're leaning and they go one direction, why don't you spin the other way, right? It's like spin the opposite way and seal them and then drive to the rim. And he finally did that. He got to the rim and he finished there. And he had 12 points in that quarter, a couple of assists as well. Jason Kidd calling him a playmaker during a mid-game interview during this game. But the Mavericks in that quarter, 7 assists on 10 made field goals. And I thought that they were playing really well in that third quarter, and KP was a big reason why.
Yeah, that was a stretch for him. And then, the fourth quarter happened, and we're like, all right, well, I guess.
It was very different. Was it the toe injury?
Yeah.
Was it conditioning? He's missed a bunch of games too here. So,
yeah.
Who else stood out to you in this game? A couple of the hardship guys. We talked about Marquise Chris a little bit. We talked about how Brandon Knight kind of had a bounce back game. We mentioned Theo Pinson had a decent night. He hit another 3, had 9 points, 5 boards.
It's just nice having another guy like Theo out there that he's just comfortable with the ball.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, he can go off he hit a couple mid-range shots tonight. It's like, all right, cool. Like, I mean, I just want to see when this roster is fully back. I just hope he has a spot on the team. Charlie Brown had a nice little touch pass tonight. That
touch pass, man.
That was impressive. I kind of liked his energy too. So I'm like,
I would hope so. I hope all the hardship guys in the entire NBA, people are saying, man, they had good energy because this is your moment. Like, this is your time. This is your dance.
And
this isn't leave nothing to chance.
This isn't a player, but
stand in the sea, drink of the deep.
I think this coaching staff deserves some credit, man.
I think so too.
I think, Christy Tolliver obviously posted today that, she is out with COVID, and, that's 3 assistants right there. It's been out.
Yep.
And but on top of that,
and they don't get hardship coaches either.
No, JJ Barrett's like, I'm ready. But like,
no,
3 assistants out, and they're bringing in all these new guys. And they're still staying competitive in all of these games. And I know they're bringing it full circle to the whole like moral victories and all that type of stuff. But it's like, if you would have told me losing Luka and then, hey, you're going to have all these players out, Tim, Maxey, Reggie, all these guys that are going to be out for health and safety protocols. And if you would have told me, hey, out of these next handful of games, they're going to lose by an average of like 14 to 18 points a game, I'd be like, man, it's gonna be a tough one to pod through, but I get it. I understand. That makes sense. And every one of these games, man, like they're in there in the fourth quarter. They're fighting. They're like, you could see defense wise, like,
yeah.
And it's offense wise too. Like, I've been impressed. I've been walking out of these games more impressive. It's like, dang, like they're walking these games like coached. Like they're ready. I mean, these guys are stepping in, putting a Mavs uniform on for the first time a few days ago, and like they're making crap happen, and especially losing assistants along the way too. I just think Kidd and the staff deserve some credit with that.
You're losing your structure, right? You're losing your structure because you're 3 coaches down, and then you're also adding a bunch of new pieces that have to play minutes, right? Brandon Knight, 20 minutes in this game. Marquise Chris, 10 minutes. Theo Pinson, 21 minutes. Moses Brown, 10 minutes in this game. Guys that haven't played a lot, or that are just literally brand new. You're losing the structure with the assistant coaches, and then these guys still come in and are added to this team. And the Mavericks have not lost a game that Luka has not played in this year by over 10 points. Like, to be competitive in a lot of these games, there's something to be said about that. All right. Any other thoughts? Christmas Day. Anybody else stood out to you? Sterling Brown hit 3 threes. Let's go.
Yeah, Sterling Brown. As far as other games, I didn't get to watch a ton of the other games. Handful here and there. I thought the Knicks uniforms were trash. I think the Knicks
court was like Halloween.
Yeah, I think they mixed up their holidays, but I think in a little bit in the next few weeks, my Nick Claxton jersey will come in, and that'll be up on the bookshelf.
His and one that he had was
that dunk was, who was that dunk over?
I think it was the Space Jam New Legacy starring member himself.
I didn't know that, and I know Russ had another good game for the Lakers. So
Russ missed 4 layups in that game that I counted.
I love insane. It. Hook it up to
He's
my
like,
veins.
He might as well take a mid-range shot at this point.
I love everything that's happened with the Lakers.
There you go. We'll be back. We'll be back tomorrow night. We got another
okay.
show tomorrow night.
Oh, okay.
We'll break it all down. What the Mavericks have done without Luka, where they're going, and all that. Guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs and sticking with us through Christmas.
Peace out.